This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
This is a bit of an animal.
Hello and welcome back to Bit of an Animal, the South African rugby-focused podcast here on Global Game Lines. We've got a lot to talk about this week. We've got almost a full panel. Unfortunately, Thembi Nkosi could not make it this evening. Recording on Thursday, the 21st of August. But we do have Jean and Lisa B. How are the both of you this evening?
I am recovering from the weekend. I had it's probably the worst roller coaster weekend of my life, probably. But yeah, we'll get into all of that.
All right. So before we start, like, subscribe, click the notification bell. If you do not click the notification bell, I'm inclined to believe you are David Campisi. And also shout out to, we've had 3 episodes prior to this. This is the 4th episode of Bit of an Animal. Shout out to the 2 people who actually commented on episode 1, Seamus McGuigan, who I'm familiar with. I hike with. He commented and gave us some encouragement on episode 1. So he's our first ever commentator. Thanks, Seamus. Seamus, of course, the proprietor of Perfect Water at the Harbour Bay Mall between Glencairn and Simonstown. So see, if you guys had commented first, you would have gotten free advertising. And Brian Zeke was the only commentator on episode 2, and he inquired about how to listen to the podcast audio. And our intrepid producer Lee, commented back with a link. So if you want to know how to listen to the podcast, I personally listen to this podcast and a bunch of the other podcasts on the Global Game Lines whilst running and often while driving. The other podcasts on Global Game Lines are the very now most popular podcast on this YouTube channel. It's the Women's Treehouse. So shout out to them. The URC Rewind, which you can see my ugly face on as well, along with a bunch of other people. Names escape me. The USA podcast, the Wall Street Journal, as well as there's one more. Is it? It's us. Yeah, it's us. Anyway. So it's those 3 podcasts plus us right now. So let's get to the program because there's a lot to talk to. Okay, first topic. Not the Stormers. Yeah. So disorganized this week. What happens to the other podcasts as well? First topic, South Africa lose to Australia at Ellis Park. Jean, you were there. We're going to give it to you first because you have first-hand knowledge. How was it? Were you in the bleachers? Were you in the nosebleeds, or were you right in front of the halfway line?
No, I was in the north upper stand. So first half, got to see the Springbok attack in full flow. I have to say kudos to whoever designed Ellis Park way back when. Sitting up there on the upper stand, you can see literally the whole field. It's almost like you're looking down, so it's very vertical. But yeah, absolutely amazing experience. The vibe was fantastic. Like I said, first half we got to see that wonderful Springbok attack, just flowing towards us, and I have to say, I've heard a lot of people say it, and now that I've experienced it. Watching rugby from behind the poles is completely different to seeing it normally from the sidelines. You see so much better where the players are trying to move and how they're trying to move. So yeah, and like you notice a lot of things. Like I noticed in the first half, every time Australia got the ball, Andre Esterhuizen would drift out. So instead of covering the 12, he would go and cover Swali because they're similar heights. But then in the second half, that didn't happen so often because Australia, when they got onto rhythm, they would condense us so much that we started honeypotting. and Swali would be unmarked. So yeah, you get to notice a lot of things, but amazing experience. I didn't, luckily, no fist fights, except for the one guy in the bathroom. And then yeah, just on the game, I think we came out of the blocks absolutely storming, and then we just switched off. Like it was difficult to watch at times. Um, so second half I got to see Australia playing towards us, and you would see how we were moving downfield, how we were shifting the ball and shifting the point of focus, and it became so frustrating when you could see the guys like they would try and then we would make a mistake and we would concede points, so they would try harder and they would try and force it, and then we concede points because they make a mistake because they're trying too hard, and then on the next kickoff we try even harder. So it's sort of this spiral of just trying too hard. And yeah, I think that, mentally we lost the game before we physically lost the game ever. Couple of times I saw Damian Willemse in the second half just give up chasing. Like Mani Libbok would come streaking past him, still chasing, and Willemse would be like given up. So a lot of Rassie said it, a lot of slumped shoulders, a lot of hung heads. Yeah, not our best performance, and then lineouts were impacted, and there was a pretty clear leadership vacuum, and you have to wonder why no one stepped up and said, guys, let's peel back. We don't have to go 120 k's an hour. We can cruise until these guys are tired. And instead, Australia saw the cracks in what we were trying to do, and they wedged themselves in there, and they got rewards.
All right. Lisa B, what are your thoughts on the game? You, like me, watched it from home?
Yes, I was in front of my TV, and for the first 20 minutes, I thought it was the best game I've ever watched in my whole entire life. It was amazing. I mean, I can imagine how it must have been in the stands. Like I got goosebumps, and I was sitting there going, my goodness, I said we are going to smash them right up front last week. And we didn't so much smash them as just run through them. And I'd never seen the Springboks play like that. Goodness, I don't think ever. So that was very exciting. And then, yeah, like Sean said, we stopped playing. But also before I go on about that, I really, what I admire about the Australians, really amazing game that they played. And also for such a young team to kind of hold back and kind of absorb the pressure, but also to see the scoreboard ticking up and not get stressed and not, get frazzled. And I think it had a lot to do with their 9-10 combination, who really kind of, I think they're both 35. Am I right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And they kind of really held that team, I thought. And so, yeah, well played,
Yeah, just
Aussies.
sorry, just
Yeah.
want to give a shout out to Nick White for not dying this time on the pitch while playing South Africa.
Yeah. Poor Nick. Yeah, it was an interesting game, especially from the Australian perspective, the pivots not being that young, one retiring recently and then asked to come back, and Nick White. James O'Connor had like an incredibly up and down rugby career, just like remembering all the nonsense he's done off the field while still relatively playing well at London Irish. James O'Connor, by the way, is going to be basically Andre Pollard's replacement at Leicester in England. So yeah, look, prior to this game, I thought we'd win by like within a try, like within 7 points and that type of thing. I didn't think we'd lose, but especially when one looks at the team we put out. However, these things happen. Tactically, Rassie likes to sort of mix things up. try new things. In the prior sort of the press conferences after that, the South African coaching staff and players were quite honest about sort of trying certain tactics and putting sort of three backs on the bench, thinking they were going to run the Australians off their feet. And I appreciate the humility of the South African team when they indicated that they got their tactics wrong and they lost the game. But personally, I'm not usually panicked about the whole situation because of the strong sort of foundational structures we have within South Africa. And then there's also like exterior reasons, like a numerous sort of vital players, not just in terms of playing ability, but leadership getting injured within a very short space in time. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to the second test. Under Rassie Erasmus's tenure, especially since we won the first World Cup after winning two in a row, I tend not to panic because I've seen some really extreme panicking online. People need to calm down. Um, uh, because I understand that there's sort of a broader goal. There's a lot of things going on. We're trying to structure a team also to be competitive for Australian World Cup in Australian conditions at a particular time of year. So it's like we're serving mini masters. We're trying to win all our games, rotate players, keep people fresh, for example, we played Thomas Tank Toy in the four build-up tests to this game, and then he didn't play. Well, we didn't play him in all the games, but yeah, he didn't play in this game and a few games before this game. And Rassie was quite honest about the fact that he played a lot for Bath in England, and there are player resting protocols, and that's why. Because people obviously they didn't see Thomas in the team, they thought like, oh, did he get dropped? And then the coach is constantly having to explain, no, we're actually just trying to rotate the players in and out. So yeah, Lisa B, any thoughts on the Australian team in particular?
Yeah, so I just really thought that they hung back really well and then, kept themselves. Uh, and it was actually quite amazing that they sensed when to switch. And that's where we were lacking. We just didn't switch at all. Where when the game kind of started to get away from us, we should have shut it down, gone back to old school, and just give ourselves some breathing room, which we didn't do, and they did the exact opposite, which I thought was really fantastic. And also, yeah, I can't say this too loudly, but I'm turning into a Jorgensen fan. I think he was fantastic. Really explosive speed and just, yeah. But that goes for the whole team, I think. Um, yeah, so that's that for the Aussies. The only other thing that I wanted to say about us is what Jean was saying about, not having that leadership stepping up and, getting the guys to do exactly that, to slow it down. And I was really wondering why in a team like this that has, all the double World Cup winning players like Itzebit and Ox, and you can name them up, why no one felt that they could actually, or I don't know, maybe they were just too tired because they were running around for 20 minutes in the wide channels like we haven't seen them do forever. Well, we've seen inklings of it, but you get my point. So were they too tired, or I was wondering if there might be a bit too much buy-in to what the way the coaches want them to play, and kind of a reticence to play what they see. I don't know what you guys think.
That's a good point. What are your thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, so I think Lisa B touches on something, and I spent, I don't want to say an inordinate amount of time, but quite a significant amount of time, sort of like going over, because it if you watch the match first time, again, doesn't matter. It almost feels like we're there, we've got it, and then suddenly we don't. And I think the reason it feels so bad is because and it speaks to the leadership question that Lisa is asking, is I think because we were so successful of getting into the 22 of Australia the whole time, and I took a quick look at the stats. We like dominated territory extremely well. But I think what happened was the coaches saw us getting into the 22 and they were like, all we need is for this to click. All we need is for it to click, and Australia's momentum will swing towards us. So I sort of wonder, and in my head, the reason I'm saying this is we saw the same attack continuing, and then afterwards we saw Rassie and them, especially Rassie, say, but it's our fault as coaches. So I'm wondering if the leadership on the field didn't maybe say, let's tighten it up, let's not do this. And Rassie and them were like, no, if this clicks just one more time, we've got the match. We need to push. And maybe the over buy-in actually came from the coaches.
Yeah, look, these things
Did-
happen. We're looking at the stats
and
right now. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, 42% of the game was played in the Australians 22. So that's certainly a factor. I've also seen numerous press conferences now after the game where the coaches and the players were saying, "Look, we're trying something." So yeah, you guys actually make very, very good points. Some stuff I maybe didn't even think of, like sometimes it's a fight between what you were asked to do and what you see in front of you. And maybe the players were just like, look, there's a broader plan here. The coaches might want us to try this, and maybe if it doesn't come off, it'll eventually come off. And we're trying different things. A big factor with the South African game plan, and often Test rugby teams' game plan, is to not necessarily show all your cards too soon. We basically, a big factor to us winning two World Cups back to back, because we've got four in total. If anybody forgot, it's any non-South Africans watching.
Just
you
Humble
said
we
four,
brag.
don't
right?
mention it.
Uh,
We're
yeah,
so we don't like
yeah,
telling everybody
the
about this
fours.
all the time, but
Uh,
just
yeah.
FYI.
But the more recent back-to-back victories, as an interesting factor was that we would try tactics that we hadn't maybe shown our cards too soon. So there's two ways of thinking of that. If you play your primary and secondary game plan quite often leading to a World Cup or leading to a very important game, you might give the opposition enough time to then counter that plan with their own plans and stuff like tactics. Okay, if they do A, we're going to do B type thing. But if you've never seen them do A, then how are you sort of going to plan for it? For example, like when we won the first more recent Rugby World Cup under Rassie, people didn't think we were going to play as expansive in the final against England because they were like, look, they were playing like the scrum off kicks the ball up and then they compete, that type of thing. In the second World Cup, which we won, a key game was against France. And a tactic that no one had really seen us use that much was, instead of having the wing chase the scrum halves kick up, we actually had big oaks like Etzebeth and other locks, and just loose forwards like tall blindside flank loose forwards, former locks like Peter Steph Toy. And then the French guy was like, "Why is this huge dude running at me? I thought it was going to be the tiny winger." You understand? So just throwing people off. So look, we lost. We'll move on. It might not have been that ideal. The last point we want to touch on is, Jean, you were in the stadium. There's been a lot of talk this is the fifth game South Africa played in the 2025 series of games, the fifth game and the fifth game at home in South Africa. There's been a lot of talk for all five games about stadiums not quite being as full as they could be, and prices in terms of the stadium, the prices of the tickets. So you were at the game. From my perspective, watching it, it didn't look too empty, but it didn't look too full. It wasn't like a Stormers game where it's like I've been at Stormers games where the atmosphere is great, and then you watch it on TV and it doesn't look as atmospheric, but because it's not that full. So Jean, your thoughts as somebody who's actually been at the stadium in terms of this whole ticket pricing question.
Yeah, so look, I mean, initially I went with a big group of people on one of the social media platforms. I'm part of a group. And the majority of the group actually comes from your guys' valley up there, and they'd flown down and everything. I just sort of tagged along for the bus ride to the stadium and back. But yeah, look, just to give you an idea, they had worked on last year's prices when the same group had attended the game in Durban against Ireland, and their tickets had cost 750 Rand per person. And this year it cost 1,750 Rand per person. So that is a big increase. And you cannot tell me that Ellis Park and Kings Park are that different in terms of quality, especially not when I have to walk down 6 flights of stairs after having lost to some people from the upside down land. So yeah, look, I think in terms of that, there's I'm not sure where the decision was made.
Yeah.
I'll put my feelings on it like this. The Springboks are probably the most unifying symbol in this country.
Mm.
And gatekeeping it behind expensive ticket prices that will first line the pockets of sorry executives and then filter down to the players and franchises is not very Madiba. It's
Yeah.
really not very Madiba. It is not this. I don't feel it's right. I'm not saying Soru is not allowed to make money. They're not a charity organization. What I'm saying is take into account that 1,750 Rand is a lot of money for a lot of people. Not for some people, for a lot of people. And your ticket prices, I think, should bear in mind that the majority of this country would love to go and visit a game if they could afford it. And yes, there were numerous seats open. I saw so from where I was sitting on my left hand side, what would be the east stand, the east upper stand, there was plenty of seats open, plenty of seats open, and it's not for a lack of willingness, but if you're charging someone almost double the cost of watching the game via the official broadcaster, then understand you're going to get
Yeah.
in.
And that's the whole monthly subscription. So just anecdotally, by looking at the stadium, because I don't have any official stats right now, I'd actually like to look at the first 5 games that we've had and see the capacity that was actually full of each stadium. I'll actually look into that, and maybe I'll have some feedback on the next episode. Tune in.
Yeah.
Your anecdotally, when you looked around, would you say the stadium was like 80% full, 85% full, that type of thing?
I know Saru came out and said that their aim point was 85% full.
Mm,
um I would say it's close to 90%,
mm,
like
yeah,
somewhere between 90 and 95% full.
yeah,
Bearing in mind, I don't know how many open seats were guys who got too comfortable downstairs at the beer garden,
yeah.
and
That's
weren't
also true.
necessarily tickets sold because I'll tell you, Castle was flowing. But yeah, look, there was a lot of open seats,
Mm.
upper level, lower levels, and it's not lacquered to see that. Um, but yeah, such is the
I
nature
think
of
there needs
things.
to be a balance. It's almost like just finding the right balance, and they've shifted a bit too much towards milking us. And with the a cost of living crisis and all that stuff, we need to make rugby a bit more accessible. So I'm not saying they need to make the tickets now super cheap, but they can clearly see the public backlash, and then they need to just like shift it a little more towards the more affordable side, and that they just find the balance where there's enough people to fill the stadium at least, that type of thing.
Yeah,
Lisa B, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, it's flippin' expensive. It's expensive for people who earn a good salary. That's the point, right? So, of course, in our country, not everyone, you could make tickets 500 Rand and not everyone would be able to afford that. But the point is, working people earning an average salary, and it's not just thinking in terms of a person buying a ticket, it's in terms of a family or a couple or a bunch of friends, right? Um, it's just not sustainable. And the thing that really didn't sit well with me is how Sorrow came out and said, well, we're looking at what tickets cost in the rest of the world. Well, that's great, but we don't live in the rest of the world. We live in South Africa. We have certain realities. And also what I always wonder about is the balance between cheap tickets and expensive tickets. And should, because the cheap tickets go so quickly anyways, but at least if you have a larger percentage or an adequate, whatever that is, percentage of cheap tickets, you can kind of spread it a bit more and you're not going to sit with empty seats. Because it doesn't look good for the team, it doesn't look good for South Africa, for the health of rugby, and it's also kind of a misrepresentation at the end of the day of rugby in South Africa. So, yeah, cheaper tickets, please.
Yeah, because obviously there's a massive demand. I was hoping to attend Springbok Open training this week. I wasn't sure where it was going to be. Unfortunately, my week was a little too full, so even if I had known, I wouldn't have been able to attend. I see years ago I attended Springbok Open training at Cape Town Stadium. That's where I met Opa Mahoja, Warren Whiteley, Ebert Etzebeth was there. He didn't really interact with people. Brian Abana was still in the team. I had a long chat with Warren Whiteley that day, spoke to Opa Mahoja as well. I can't remember which other players I interacted with, but I saw a range of players. At the time, Warren Whiteley was still captain, so this is like years ago. Um, and that was Cape Town Stadium. It was very well organized. Not as many people as because it's in Cape Town Stadium is sort of in Greenpoint. That's more difficult to access to the degree that I was fortunate enough to take the day off work and drive to the stadium. You had to get the tickets for free at Checkers. You just had to ask for the tickets. The tickets were free, and you could only get two tickets at the time. So what was also interesting about that is that uh, then on the way out, I had spoken to somebody, and then I just happened to ask him, sort of like, where did you come from? And then he was like, explain to me what suburb he was from. And then I was like, oh, so how are you getting home? And he was like, oh, I was going to take the train. So I was like, okay, I can't, because we're in the different directions, I can't give you a lift home, but I can, yeah, give you a lift to the train station. And then he was like, cool. So I would have thought like maybe there was 2,000 people there, but in this week, there was open training in Belhar, which is a very sort of working class suburb, and the whole stadium was full. The stadium can hold 5,000 people. The whole stadium was full and the surrounding area. So they are estimating that there was more than 5,000 people there. Why? Because the stadium that was at in the immediate surroundings, it's not Greenpoint. It's like a working class neighborhood. Like there are roads where people live in the immediate surroundings, and everybody just came out, school kids and everything like that. So if you look at those images, those are very encouraging. So yeah, obviously, how many people would have loved to have gone to the Saturday's game? I'm not going to the Saturday's game. Lisa B, are you going to the Saturday's game at Cape Town Stadium? You're not going to the Saturday's game. So we'll see what the capacity is for that as well. Like when you go to any game, Stormers game, Sharks game, whatever, you don't just factor in the ticket price. You generally go with somebody. Like the last time I went to the Stormers game, I went with two of my neighbors. There's the price of fuel to get there. There's the price of parking. There's the price of concessions, i.e., food within the stadium can be relatively expensive. Although I will shout out Majid's Foods in Cape Town Stadium. Their food is quite affordable and good quality. So these are all things Saru really needs to factor in. Yes, we've got a successful brand here, but you cannot milk us. All right. Now we move on to quickly look at the other result. Very late in the evening, I think everybody was asleep after we lost. Argentina pretty much got run over in Argentina by New Zealand. New Zealand look really good. They look really focused. This is the second year under Old Razor. So I don't know if they win the rugby championship, if he's going to break dance or not. I think he said he's only going to break dance if they win the World Cup. So we need to stop that. Jacques, your thoughts on New Zealand running over Argentina?
Yeah, look, I think Argentina is sort of the opposite of most teams, in that they tour really well, but they struggle at home. And I think it's because of they play overseas so much that when I don't know, maybe when they're home, it's a struggle for them to contain emotions, and to focus as much. But it's a trend. I won't say it's a major trend, but it's something I've noticed is they tend to perform when they play away, when they're isolated, when they're alone against the crowd, sort of like how we as Springboks and Springbok fans like to prefer being the underdog, and with our backs to the wall, they sort of do the same. If they're traveling, they tend to perform better. But yeah, like New Zealand, I think handled the game very, very well in a very settled way. They came out, they played hard and fast, and when nothing was on, they just calmed. They played until something opened up, which is, you could say, the opposite of what we did, coming out trying to finish the game in 20 minutes. New Zealand were really, they had their finger on the pulse, and they were playing tight when it needed to be tight, and they played wide when the opportunity was there. So yeah, I don't think it was necessarily a bad performance by Argentina. I just think New Zealand were really on the money on the day. I know there's both teams have walked away with some injuries. So it's never lacquered to see that. Same with Dylan Pitch and his broken jaw. But yeah, I just think New Zealand was so on the money on the day, and it sort of almost gave you that flashback to when they were so dominant, where they would just be on the pulse of the game, and they would ride the game so well. If they knew you were up and you were ready to beat them out wide, they would just play tight and wait for you to make a mistake. And yeah, I think second year under Razor, this is the type of improvement that you'd expect. We'll see. I don't know. New Zealand and Australia, I think those are going to be the exciting test matches. I'm really hoping for Australia to get a finger on that cup.
Lisa B, your thoughts on New Zealand? Well, Argentina versus New Zealand. I always have to mention the home team first.
Yeah. I hope the cup you meaning is the Bledisloe and not the actual. Yeah. So yeah, it would be great. I mean, honestly. But getting back to the game, that's exactly right. And it's exactly the opposite of what we did. New Zealand kept to their DNA. They they looked like the typical New Zealand team. And I think that's, yeah, if you think about last year's TRC, where they kind of went away from that, or just maybe there was a bit too much confusion or new things coming in. It's great. Well, I don't know if it's great to see, but they did manage to get back to that. And Argentina is like my second team. I absolutely love them. So it is so frustrating. And last year also, I think we saw them break away from that inconsistency. So I'm a bit disappointed that they had a rocky start, but I'm hoping that they can get back to to the to the flashes of light that we saw last year, and to continue that more consistently.
I you mentioned the consistency there, and I recently listened to an interview of Montoya, and where he was being interviewed, and they asked him about, last year Argentina being so consistent, and they came out this year, first game. I mean, he had played 2 weekends before his final club game. They had literally a week to prepare, and then it was a game against the Lions, and they won. And he just said the biggest thing was for them was staying in contact with one another. Doesn't matter where they are playing, whether they're playing in Argentina, the UK, France, down under, Japan. Um, the biggest thing was just being in contact, because the more they spoke as a team, the closer it brought them together. Um, but yeah, I'm really hoping we can see a return to form for Argentina, and especially I think maybe towards the end of the year, when normally they tend to drop off a bit. I would love for them to have a good end of the year tour as well.
It's quite interesting because after they defeated the British and Irish Lions, fantastic game, by the way. Nice to see the Lions lose. They then went on to lose to England, but they shuffled their team around again. Then they lost to England again. So they were hosting England. Obviously, they ran over Uruguay. And then there was a bit of a gap. So there was a month gap from the 19th of July until the 16th of August. But they've played 4 games in a row in Argentina now. But you're completely right, John. They seem to play better away. And they've I like Argentina. I want them to play well, but the main factor for me right now is that New Zealand went in, by the way, in the lead in the entire game. Main factor for me right now is I'm watching these games quite closely because these 2 Australia games, even if we lost the first one, it's basically the appetizer for South Africa versus New Zealand versus South Africa in New Zealand. 2 games back to back. It's like a test series, but it's only 2 games. And that's going to draw not just the attention of New Zealand and South Africa, but the entire world. And it's good to see that New Zealand look really sharp. I'm glad we're doing this too in New Zealand after Razor had a first season to sort of like work things out. They obviously also changed some stuff up in terms of the coaching staff since Razor took over. With Liam McDonald being shown the door, and they refuse to talk about it, but I have my suspicions. But yeah, on we go to the next game. South Africa versus Australia in sunny but somewhat gloomy Cape Town. We're first going to look at the South African team, but we'll look at both teams. Lisa B, your thoughts on us hopefully taking revenge in our province?
Yes, stay better. Um, look, unfortunately, Cape Town is not the best hunting ground for the Springboks. But yeah, so at the moment there is sun, you're right, but I think it's still going to be raining up until Saturday, and so the pitch will be not wet, but it won't be the hard pitch that they had up in Joburg. So, and I think the team has also been chosen for that, right? So it's very clear what Rassie wants to do. Uh, my only question is Schmitty has showed himself to be a really, really good coach. And like I think he's up there with Rassie. I think we all know this. So uh he had our number last week. Will we be able to come out and play kind of South African DNA rugby? Um and get away with it. Well, not get away with it, but does Schmidt have some more surprises, is what I'm trying to get at. I'm really, really happy with Ruan Nortje and Arjen Snyman starting. I think last week, yeah, so I'm really happy with them playing because they're a little bit younger, they're a little bit quicker, and I think that's going to be important in the first half to really show Australia who's boss in the first 20 minutes. I think we have to. So I'm very happy with them because we're playing on the wide channels. I think that's important. Marco van Staden, look, he was better last week than he was against Italy. I thought he can still improve, but I'm happy with him there. Franco Mostert, I have a good big question about whether he's going to step up. But yes, Jean-Luc Dupree, also very happy for him and actually having a proper number 8. Right? I think that's important. I personally prefer Ruiz, but for me they're very similar, so I'm happy with that. Do you
John, do you
see my
think?
background?
Oh yeah, John, do you think we're going to win by
Wonderful.
50 points or 60 points this weekend?
No, I don't think it's gonna be. Look, I don't think it's gonna be a score chasing game.
Mm.
Um, I agree with Lisa in terms of saying Archie Snyman and Ruan Nortje, and the vibe I'm getting there is maximum line out. Archie Snyman and Ruan Nortje, without refreshing my judgment, both are touching 2.1 meters tall. I think what that allows us to do is it allows Malcolm and Buan not Buan, Marnes van der Merwe to really like hit the apex of their throw. So even if we're lifting early, in the front of the line out, um, he can aim it quite high, because especially Go Gadget arm Snyman, he can just sort of like add another half a meter. And if it's not too raining and not too slippery, you understand it. How are you competing with that? If you're aiming above, because there's no restriction on how high you can throw as long as it's straight. So yeah, I think that's interesting. And Ruan Norkia, obviously being a seasoned line-out operator, he can call the line-out really well. Marco van Staden, definitely, I think he had probably of our loose forwards for last weekend, I feel like he had the best game. I'm very sorry that our captain got injured. He had an amazing dive over try. I was pretty sure Alice Park's upper seating was going to collapse from everyone just screaming and jumping out of their seats. But yeah, I'm also excited, Jean-Luc Dupria. Unfortunately, our eight stocks, we've got a lot of eights, but they seem to be injured or they're being kept on ice. I think
Or suspended.
or suspended.
Yeah.
I think the two tests across the ocean weigh heavily on the coaches' minds. What's interesting to me is that we're seeing there's sort of a combination here on 9 and 10. Grant Williams being fast, young and fast. I'm not calling Pollard old, but Grant being sort of the younger, explosive player, paired with Andre, the sort of calm, collected, always switched on, always ready. Let's just operate. It will come. And then if you take a look at our at the bench, you've got Kobus Reinach, who is a seasoned operator, with Sasha Feinberg. So I think that pairing up of between the 9 and the 10, having a balance of youthful exuberance, but also age and maturity, and allowing them to play off one another, is going to be great. And something that, look, I'm a big Edwin van der Merwe fan, but with Cheslin Colby there, good luck to Jorgensen. Cheslin Colby is not the same. Same to Tom Wright at fullback. It's not going to be as easy to sneak it in this week.
It's going to be a fun game. I don't think going into the first game, I didn't think we'd win by that much, and then we unfortunately lost. I think we're going to win this game, but we're going to show a bit more maturity. The reality is that the Springbok coaching staff, they try new innovative things, and then when they lose, they try to pull it back a little, just win the game.
Yeah.
We get back onto the winning track. We don't want to win multiple. We don't want to lose multiple games in a row. So I predict a win. It's an exciting team. We have a large player pool to choose from. So there's always something to look at in terms of seeing new players, seeing sort of how many of our really high quality locks we're using. Unfortunately, Salman Murat's injured, but we're basically using every fit lock we have, that type of thing. So I suspect it's going to be a far more mature, sort of like just get the job done type game with a bit of flair here and there. But I think they felt that they let themselves down, maybe being a bit too loose and trying a bit of crazy stuff last week, and it didn't come off. You lose games, it's cool. No big deal. No need to massively panic. I mean, Damien Del Andy's there. I feel that Andre Stesen is a high quality player, but Damien Del Andy is probably the best inside center I've ever seen. What's interesting about the evolution of rugby is that, especially within the South African context, is that Dan Carter would be a guy that we thought of as being a holistic, modern fly off, talking about kick, a pass, tackle, not a liability on defense. A couple of months ago, I saw somebody write, well, Andre Pollard's one-dimensional. And I was like, I've been watching rugby so long that people are calling Andre Pollard one-dimensional. Yes, he's older. He's not maybe at the peak. I felt maybe Andre Pollard was at the peak of his powers in 2019 when we won the World Cup. Everything was just perfect. But now he's got even more experience. He might not have the tank. He might not have the sort of tackling ability that he has, but he's certainly, I'm not calling Andre Pollard a liability on attack. And then when we compare Andre Pollard to modern fly-offs within the broader context, but in the South African context, we're talking about guys like Mari Libok, Sasha Feinberg, and Gobe Zulu. He might not be as dynamic, but I've been watching rugby so long that I remember Derek Hougaard and Morné Steyn. And then Derek Hougaard's, what was Derek Hougaard's nickname? Liefling.
Liefling.
The Bulls. The Bulls guys always getting a nickname. So those guys were good for their time, but those are like more what I would thought of as one-dimensional scrum offs, sorry, fly offs, that type of thing. So yeah, good point by the way in terms of youth and experience. I didn't actually think of that, Jean, in terms of like the pivot position, the eighth man position we've got to talk about. Lots of conjecture. Some people I've spoken to have sort of alluded to the fact that they have some inside info about why Evan Roos isn't in the team and not. I need to touch base on that. I've been on the URC podcast, the URC Rewind podcast on this Global Gain Lines YouTube channel. Like and subscribe, saying that I personally would like to stay away from the sort of message board and social media conjecture that people are talking about. Like they heard from their aunt that Evan Ross's dad is a little overbearing, and that's why he's not being picked at test level. I think Evan Ross is a good player. He played rugby at youth level and high school level in Western Cape. He went immediately from there to the Sharks youth team. He was thought of as being a good player, but maybe needed a bit of time to mature. So what the Sharks did in 2019 is we made I don't know if this was explicit or implicit, but effectively we got Sikambuza Noche at the peak of his power, one of my all-time favorite rugby players, by the way. We got him from the Stormers, as well as Siya Kolisi, while sending Evan Roos back to Western Cape, where he eventually like shone for the Stormers. So the point I'm trying to make is that we've got Evan Roos. I'm glad to see Jean-Luc Dupree back. I wonder, it's weird that he's playing eight because his brother Dan play eight most of the time at the Natal Sharks and at Sale Sharks and that type of thing. Brother Dan, I think, oh yeah, Jean-Luc's the one who just left Sale Sharks for Bordeaux. Dan decided to stay. So who do we have at eight? A whole bevy of players. Jean-Luc, Visser, Jasper, the younger brother, Kobus Visser,
And
Jasper's the
Hanekom.
younger, Jasper's the older, Kobus is the younger. Kolisi can play there, Kwaha can play there. We all obviously wanted to see Trojisa Gastes, Jono Gastes play at eight, but unfortunately he is injured. So effectively, that's like five guys I've mentioned. So we do have depth in that position, and on top of it, Kolisi can play there. So Lisa B, you've said you're the captain of the Evan Roos fan club. What are your thoughts on the eighth man position?
Yes, I have little flags and everything that I wave. No, look, I do like him. I've also recently saw an interview with Dobbo who actually alluded to more rugby reasons, saying that his carrying height was a bit too high and Rassie wanted him to fix it and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't like the rumor mill stuff. I don't like piling on players. Um, but I do think if I look at Ruiz in the last URC, when he came back from injury, there was a huge step up in his play. And his fitness and just he bulked up. He's doing CrossFit, but I think it all had a very big, yeah. He came out and really showed to me, anyways, that he got better, and that also, you know, the the main thing that people always say is, oh, he's a hothead and all the cards and whatever. And I think we can lay that one to bed. He's really cut down on the penalties and on the bad behavior. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm happy with John Luke. But yeah, there are so few Stormers in this team. But
Don't
Realize
you
that.
really think
John, in a perfect world, who would you have been starting eighth for Springboks?
in a perfect world, I'll be 100% honest, Cameron Hanekom.
Oh yeah, oh, we've completely forgot about him. We've got so many eights. I mentioned so many eights now. Fipsi Putelesi, former Baby Bar captain, he's not in the team. Cameron Hanekom's not in the team. Ulrich Lowe can play eighth man quite well. Wow, good point,
So,
John.
so the the thing for me, I think the thing with Russ is he's almost a known quantity to Rassie. Like Rassie, because Rassie alluded to something earlier in the year. He said when everyone was speculating why isn't Russ playing, he said me and Russ know there's a plan. right? And it was a short, it was like a sentence, not even a sentence, it was a half sentence, it was an offhand remark. He said there's a plan. And that to me means, he knows Roos to him is a known quantity, and they're working on something, right? So if Rassie is not showing it, we know Rassie will hide the ace in the hole. So if he's working on Roos with something, you know what? Let Rassie cook. I'm not going to interrupt someone making potjie course on a Sunday. Um, I do think Cameron Hanekom obviously very hard done by the injury, but I think in terms of being in, if we take the gold standard as Dwayne Vermeulen, being able to catch the high ball, devastating carries, good hands, and being solid in scoring turnovers and on defense. Um, Cameron Hanekom is the closest we're going to get. And it's not to say, look, this isn't taking away from Jean-Luc Dupree, Pepsi Buthelezi, Ulrich Louw. All of these guys can, on the day, deliver. I think Cameron Hanekom is the guy who can be the most consistent in that position. He to me feels like the type of guy you pick in a World Cup squad because you can play him 5 games in a row, and he's going to give you
Yeah.
5 solid performances. That being said, something I just realized looking at the screen, if we take a look at the two front rows, Oxenche, Malcolm Marx, Thomas de Toey being replaced by Marnus van der Merwe, Boan Venter, Wilco Louw, barring Wilco Louw, and maybe Oxenche. 4 of the 6 guys in the front row are pretty mobile for guys weighing more than 110 kgs. Malcolm Marx, turnover threat. Thomas du Toit, Bath used him a lot in the middle of the field as a
He was a
devastating
top
runner.
try scorer.
Top try scorer in the Prem. Marnus van der Merwe, Boan Venter. Boan Venter, obviously coming from Scotland, they used him as a devastating carrier. I think Wilco Louw is literally there in the second half to be a rock on one side of the scrum and allow Marnus and Boan to operate off of him. But then you've got Eben and Luet to sort of back that up as well and provide stability. But then again, you take a look at Eben and Luet. Eben is such a versatile athlete. He's always shifting around the field. So it comes across, the longer you look at this team, this is a workhorse team. This is a 90-minute team. And I think where last week we started at 120 and we ran out, next week, this Saturday, we're going to start at 80% and we're going to keep at 80% no matter what. And it's going to be the question of, can you keep up with our 80% for 80 minutes?
Going to be an exciting game. Okay, so the final thought on this is Jean mentioned Dwayne Vermeulen. Dwayne Vermeulen is the gold standard of eights. And what's interesting is that Piers Spiss is a very good rugby player. He didn't quite work out as in terms of test rugby as he did. He won quite a lot with the Bulls at the slightly lower level, still quite a high level, Super Rugby level. I think he won some Currie Cups with them as well, but he might have not been in the Currie Cup squad. He might have been with the Springboks. But the long and the short of it is that when Piers Spiss and Vermeulen were sort of in the mix to be the starting eight for South Africa, people thought at the time, because this is like early sports science thing, that Piers Spiss looks like an athlete, and Dwayne Vermeulen, when you'd see him in training with his shirt off, he looks less conditioned. But Dwayne Vermeulen showed that in sports science, there's a difference between having a gym body and having a rugby body. And Dwayne Vermeulen was so durable that Piers Spiss was tearing his hamstring every 2 weeks or so, maybe 3 weeks. But Dwayne Vermeulen, like, he proved so many people wrong that people were like, no, he's going to be like in the shadow of Piers Spiss because Piers Spiss looks like a fitness model. But Dwayne Vermeulen showed that like he legitimately had such a long, if you look at his Wikipedia, had such a long career. He only retired recently, and he was like the perfect eighth man. And he started. I remember this guy playing getting his debut alongside Heinrich Brousseau. Shout out to Heinrich Brousseau in the Cheetahs team. And he was just thought of as a possibly good player, and he's one of the best players of South Africa ever. So shout out to Dwayne Vermeulen. We've got a lot more to talk about. Let's move swiftly on. We're not really going to look at the Australian team. Uh, Quickly, we're going to touch on the fact that it's this Saturday against Australia. Then there's 1 week where there is no Springbok rugby, so that gives everybody a chance to do other things other than braai. And then we've got the next weekend. It's New Zealand versus South Africa in New Zealand, and the kickoff is 9:05. So that's just a brief um, look forward to that. So now we shift quickly
Very,
to you got something to say, John? Yeah.
yeah, I just want to say to all the husbands out there, the weekend where there's no rugby is the weekend after payday. Spend time with your wife, spend time with the kids. After that, there's 2 weekends of no excuses.
It's a very good point, John. Okay, so South Africa versus Brazil this Sunday. The team has not been announced yet. Kickoff is at 3:45 South African time. Um, do not miss it. I definitely will be watching this game. So Lisa B was kind enough to give us her uh, the team that she thinks South Africa will run out to. So we'll give her the stage. And yeah, your
I
thoughts,
think you're
Lisa?
over, yeah, I think you're overselling it a little bit. I don't necessarily think that this will be the team that Swiss chooses because what do I know? I mean, Swiss is like
It's
a
your
rugby.
educated guess, and you have more insight than the rest of us here.
So the reason I chose these players is because so there are quite a lot of players that have World Cup experience and some who don't. And the ones that don't have the asterisk, they do not have the World Cup experience. Although someone like Ayanda Malinga has been to the Olympic Games, and she's a sevens player, fantastic, wonderful winger, and so even though some of them might not have been to the World Cup, some of them do have quite a lot of experience. The big thing with what I would like people to understand about the Springbok women is they don't get a lot of opportunities to play in front of big crowds at big events. So this team is more kind of also looking into the future for players to get that experience, maybe even for the next World Cup or for other big games that might be in their future. So I started off with so you can see I paired kind of experienced players with non-experienced players. So at props, I've got Leaky, who is also kind of new. Um, she doesn't have a lot of caps, but she's next to Ngolo, who is very experienced and I thought was very solid. Lucia Hanekom, I think she needs this to get some self-confidence as well. Then on the bench, I've got Baba Walacha and Lindelwa Gwala to come on. They're two of our very best players. So if anything does go wrong, they can come up and kind of fix anything that needs to go wrong, that needs to be fixed. Boy did not play in the Black Ferns games, so I've got her in here, number one, also as a settling influence, um, and to get her kind of up to speed because I think probably maybe we want to put her on the bench for the Italy game to kind of come in the second half. But she really is our talisman, and I think just having her on the field is important for the younger players. Then I've got Nomsa Makwai coming on. She can actually play 4 and 5, covering Tolo as well. And yeah, then number 7, Sinazo, she's one of my favorite players, and she has a lot of experience with Azezahele. I put Tyler Kinsey in number 9 because, like you see, I've got I've got Nadine Ruiz on the bench. Nadine Ruiz has been playing constantly, so I feel like she needs a bit of rest. So Tyler, I've got in there, and Mary Zulu. Oh, by the way, if people know Azezahele or they don't, there is a very good documentary that just came out on Polani Bobo's YouTube about her recovery from a quite devastating injury in 2022, I think. I have a box of tissues ready if you watch it, but please do watch it. It's really, really good. Yeah, Ayanda Malinga, we talked about, she just needs to be there, and I've got her with Yaki Silye. They do play off each other really nicely. And then Kawe and Mpupa are really good together, and we're going to need them because the one thing that Brazil has going for them is their speed. They've got a bunch of sevens players in there. So that's also why I've got the speedsters in there. And then Bairandrai Dolf, I always struggle with saying her name. Bairandrai Dolf, also for the experience, but she is also just a very good captain. Not captain, but captain of the ship. She's got quite a good rugby brain. And then Marcela Samboya, shout out. Bolan Damas. There's 2 Bolan Damas here, Azezahele and Marcela Samboya. Also very rapid and can easily deal with the Brazilians. So I've tried to kind of go, this is the one game that we really need to win because it's the one we have the best chance of getting our first World Cup win. But also, you know, there's no point in taking the younger women there and not playing them. So I don't know when else they will have the opportunity.
So that was your approach, yeah? Because coaches need to sort of decide in these 3 group games. So your approach was a little more sort of use the broader squad with enough quality to still win the game, and then sort of build towards the slightly tougher games coming afterwards. Okay. Jean,
Yeah.
your thoughts on this game on pivotal game on Sunday?
Yeah, look, I agree with Lisa B. If you're looking at tournament dynamics, if you know a game is a can win, instead of a must win, then you obviously want to win it. Look, the conspiracy ad guys will tell you Rassie has always planned to lose a game at a World Cup. I don't think he's ever planned it. I think he's made peace with it. It's very difficult to win 7 games on the trot. So yeah, look, I don't think any coach, any organization goes into a game saying we can afford to lose this. You never know what happens in tournament dynamics. So definitely, but looking at the squad, you've got such versatile players here. I mean, Nadine Riss, you can plug at 9, 10, 15, 14. I think she plays best at 9 for me. She's got incredible vision. She's got pace, and she's got maybe not the best pass in being a 9, but she's got a good enough pass where it puts the receiving player in good space. So the receiving player is really in a good space. They get to make some meters, and especially if you've got guys like ladies, sorry, like Nolesen Disoboy, Aseza Hele, some of the stronger ladies there to carry into those tight channels. Having someone who can just give a proper pass is already a massive step up. And then yeah, I'm excited for this game. I'm definitely going to make time and watch it. And I'm really rooting for the women. I want us to not only get our first World Cup win, but if we can, maybe if possible, and I believe it's possible for them, get out of the group stages. Like, please,
Yeah.
we can do
Yeah.
it, ladies.
I'm so stoked, but I also the one thing that I do just have to say, and I have to tell myself this all the time, we have to have realistic expectations. We have to realize that look, this team has only really started moving in the right direction in the last 2 years. So we have to, number one goal is for this team to actually last the entire pool stage and play good rugby, good communication, and keep to their systems as well, and don't fade in the last part of the game as they have been like kind of they have done in the past. So that's number one, right? And I think we can do that. Number two is win Brazil, get our first World Cup win. That will be huge. But already there, I think we're looking at a successful World Cup campaign. It would be fantastic if we could beat Italy. I agree with Jean, it's possible, but I don't want people to get their hopes too high and then if it doesn't come off, do the normal South African thing of going, oh, they suck, So that's my one little caveat.
That's actually an
Reckless
important
hope.
point to touch on because we tend to do that, and you see it in other sporting codes as well. People are so defeatist and or black and white that this isn't binary. There's a lot of nuance going into this tournament. So, but yeah, South African rugby supporters aren't the most insightful at times. You were saying, Jean?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say like reckless hope. That's all we have is reckless hope. Screw it, we're making it out of the pool stages.
I love that. And then we'll play probably against New Zealand.
Great, yeah.
It's a
And then whatever
long-standing
happens,
rivalry.
yeah,
We deserve to win one.
yeah.
Reckless
Feeling very
hope.
positive about the tournament. So yeah, people sort of being sort of negative, we're just gonna ignore them. Usually I use the Rugby 365 website for this, but theirs is down right now for the Currie Cup interface. So we'll look at the results of this past weekend. It started this past Friday, where the Sharks C team plus under 20s put up somewhat of a fight against Griquas. However, they came up short, especially since the Griquas had a very good bench. So the Sharks had a very youthful bench, and so once it was bench versus bench, Griquas pulled away. Well done to Griquas. Can I look at some stats here? I wonder. Nope. Okay, that's that result. Pumas versus Lions. Pumas versus Lions, the cat fight. Our Lions correspondent Timby Kosi is not here this week. I did watch this game. Fantastic, very close. Lions basically won it at the death. Jean, did you get a chance to look at this game?
No, my Saturday was all Alice Park. Sorry, guys.
Ah, yeah, you were away from home. And Lisa B, did you have a look at this game?
I was
Pumas.
watching the VP kids lose, but
Ah, it was the exact same time. Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, they put it earlier, obviously because of the Springbok game. But I seem to recall last week people laughing at me for going that the Lions would win. So
You
I
were
was
right,
very
actually.
happy to actually see this.
Yeah.
I did watch the highlights, and well done to the Lions. Pumas, I think, will be starting to doubt themselves.
Mm,
Losing at home to the Lions, I think, was not what they wanted to do, although they weren't playing in the stadium. They were playing at a smaller field, I think.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't catch all of this entirely either. So were they not playing it in Mbombela?
No,
Oh,
it looked like a school field or some
wow.
smaller stadium. I'm not quite sure.
Puma's taking the game to the people, which is something we advocate for quite strongly on this podcast. That's fantastic. All right, well done, Lions. Won at the death against a good Pumas team. Tango Kamlashe, friend of the program, he played well again at outside center, former University of Pretoria captain. All right. Then the Cheetahs with their Ooms, who are now building momentum, bringing some of the players back into the squad. Um, they beat Lisa B's young kids from Western Province. You watched this game, Lisa B? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I did. Look, I thought there was improvement in Vietnam. I'm kind of joking and saying it was the kids, but they really did, especially in the last 10 minutes, kind of pull together and launch an attack, which I thought was really good considering the age gap and the gap in experience between the Cheetahs and the Western Province. And the Cheetahs kind of also let the game go a little bit at the end, and Vietnam was able to take advantage of that. So well done. I was very, very sad. In the last 10 minutes, there was who was it? A disallowed try from a knock on. And I can't remember who the player was that ran away. Hang on, let me look at
Yeah.
my
Unfortunately, we don't have the Rugby 365 interface. Otherwise, we could have looked at the teams. Yeah.
yeah. No,
But
it was number 20, Ngobeni.
okay.
He's
Ngobeni, the Ezekiel Ngobeni, the scrum
That's it.
half, and current and/or former captain of the Marties, the Stellenbosch University Varsity Cup team. Well, good.
That's exactly
Okay.
him. He had a beautiful like the line Smay, which was absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, it came off a knock on, so the try was disallowed. But really good pulling together, and I think the team's kind of gelling and looks like they might hopefully they will carry that into the URC season, which is what I'm trying to get at.
Okay. Yeah, it's cool that you briefly in that interchange called them Western problems. Freudian slip there.
I didn't even realize it.
Okay, so on to Sunday. Elizabeth's primary team, Boland Cavaliers, continue to confound the critics, winning another game at home. They've won all their games at home. They only lost in the first 4 rounds. They only lost one game away to Griquas on a Friday afternoon in Kimberley. Uh, it leads me to think, because remember, you only get 7 games in the round robin. That means you either get a 4-3 split of home and away, that type of thing, or a 3-4 split. And Boland Cavaliers actually have only 3 home games, and this was their last home game. So that means they have 3 away games coming up next. We'll look at the upcoming fixtures soon. So it leads me to believe, what could Boland Cavaliers have done had they had 4 home games? So Boland Cavaliers own basically 75% are owned by the people who also own the Bulls. So Jean's cousins, therefore, and
There was a bit of
it was Patrice Motsepe versus Patrice Motsepe. It was Johan Rupert versus Johan Rupert. And yeah, the Bulls, I had a look at the squad, by the way. The Bulls put out again a very much youthful team. So the Bulls starting this Currie Cup season, pretty much the URC fringe team, and then the URC fringe team again, and then more of the young guys because of the stomach bug that went through the team, and then they just for whatever reason they probably know they went again with a very youthful bench. In fact, this team in Poland was slightly less than the team they played the previous week. So this game was on Sunday. You obviously watched it. What are your thoughts?
Yes, it was wonderful. Last week I called them the Cavaliers of Chaos. This week I would like to call them Cavaliers Giant Slayers. I just thought they were not perfect. Lots and lots of mistakes in the first half. Also trying to take on the Bulls in the scrum, which I don't think is a good idea. And also not setting their mauls well, but just before the halftime, they scored that maul try, and I think that really changed the energy in the team. Also, just so that we are clear, there is a person with a World Cup winning medal in the Bulls team that played, Marvin Ori, and some pretty good players, Zuckerberger, Chamberlain, who just got signed overseas. So I don't think Anti-Yankee, who did really, really well, I thought. So it wasn't.
It was still a very strong Bulls team.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that I think even Rugby 365 picked the Bulls to win. But the problem with the Currie Cup is that if you try and show up with front row forwards like the Western Province and Sharks have been trying to do, that are 22 or younger, you're going to get eaten alive. So even if these 22-year-olds are baby box and that type of thing, like
Yeah.
the Stormers have the tight head prop, I can never pronounce his name properly, who was the baby box captain last season. A year ago, he was the baby box
Martin.
captain, and he's getting his ass handed to him, but he's a young guy. So if he's watching this, uh, it sort of is what it is. We're not casting dispersions onto your ability. We're just saying you're going up against worms. So yeah, I think you make a good point there. I don't want to make it seem like it's the Bulls who lost. It was actually the Boland who won. Another
Yeah, but
interesting thing is that
also,
the start of the
yeah.
Boland games they have, similar to Crusaders in New Zealand, they have a guy on a horse. It's Cavaliers, that type of thing. So that's so cool. Another reason to go to Wellington next season.
And we sold out. The stadium was sold out. I wanted to go. I had to sort of some things out. On Friday, when I wanted to buy tickets, they were sold out.
Mm.
So, but yeah, just the vibe and awesome. And yes, it's the big thing of die perd op die veld. It's a really kind of a legendary thing in the Boerland. So it was awesome to see. And yeah, I'm just not trying to overhype the Boerland, but I thought they played really well. They are up against the Pumas with a 4-day turnaround, and they had to travel to Nelspruit. So I'm worried about tomorrow's game, Friday's game. I don't know if we will be able to do it. We also don't travel very well, but we'll
Okay,
see.
but yeah, we'll be optimistic about it. We'll take a quick look at the log. So, from bottom thing, Sharks and Western Province youth teams are just playing for Spec and Bunchies. Although the Sharks did say that from the next week onwards, not tomorrow's, from rounds 6 and 7, they'll start bringing in the guys who were in the URC training squad so that they can basically use it as a preseason, the last two games of the season. So maybe we win those games, maybe we don't. They are at home. And yeah, and then we'll have sort of a 2 week break until the URC starts, and we start the URC with a away tour, 4 game away tour, or 3 game away tour. I tend to forget. After that, Bulls not completely out of the running on 10 points. Pumas, Griquas 13, 15 points respectively. Golden Lions and Griquas on the same amount of points. Um, Cheetahs, who lost their first game of the season to the Boland Cavaliers, but everybody loses in Wellington, are top of the log right now. So what I'm trying to get to here is extremely close top six, and the fight for the four playoff places is going to be very interesting. Quickly, Elizabeth, your thoughts?
Yeah, dude, I'm hoping for a top four of non-URC teams. Imagine that.
Hmm.
Imagine semifinals between Cheetahs, Cavaliers, Griquas, and Pumas. Um, but yeah, this is awesome. I love that the Currie Cup is so exciting and vibrant and actually pulling lots of eyeballs and attention. And this is more what needs to happen in local rugby.
Jean, do you feel like with 3 games to go, you guys will still win the whole tournament?
As long as we don't play the Cavaliers again. Um, yeah, I think the Bulls have an opportunity. As you said, the top six is really where it lies. Um, but then, the next, and this ties back to what we were talking about with the Women's World Cup. Pool dynamics and tournament dynamics are a dangerous thing. You don't want to start messing around. Um, the Bulls can realistically, with 3 games to go, afford to lose maybe one more, but then you need to have two fantastic games in order to make up the points difference. So yeah, and I would just say, look, try and grind out 3 wins in a row now to secure your place. I think the Bulls can do it. The problem is a lot of other teams have in different ways shown how to beat this Bulls team. The Cavaliers on the weekend had an extremely aggressive defense. They were like sand getting in between the Bulls players. It would look like the Bulls are going forward, but then they tended to get isolated. The ruck would become messy. Their play would slow down. Suddenly, front football isn't so much front football anymore. Um, and then the Pumas, with just not giving them breathing space, because once they got over the line, they just didn't let up. They just kept pounding them back. So there's multiple ways. Like I said, two teams have shown how to kill the Bulls. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But the truth is out there for everyone. So I'm hoping the Bulls can pull it together and focus. We do feel for them with the stomach bug and everything, but being Business Daddy's favorite team, they need to earn their money.
Yeah. Interesting, exciting season ahead. All right, so we quickly move on to this Friday. There's two games, one at 5 o'clock and one at 7:10. So Pumas, Bowline Cavaliers. I'm going for Pumas. Lisa B, who do you got?
I'm no man.
Oh, this is a sore subject for you.
It is. Look, I said there's problems. 4 days is very short for travel and to recuperate. My head says Pumas, but screw it. Cavaliers. Cavaliers by 10 or 1. I don't care. Cavaliers.
Great. John, if your life depended on it, Pumas or Cavaliers?
Yeah, I think both teams carrying a bit of momentum. I just feel like it's going to be a one-score game or 1 point game, and I think it's going to be in the Pumas difference.
Yeah, Bowline will put up a fight, but I think it's the Pumas game to lose. Okay, so the Sharks under 21 team versus the Western Province under 21 team at Kings Park. I will say though, in the Sharks lost to Griquas in Kimberley, their defense was good, their attack was good, their jackling was reasonably good, kind of, but the line out and scrum was shit. So hopefully this is more of an equal team, and this is basically the fight to not get the wooden spoon. So, as a Shark supporter, I'd like to see our under 21 team who are standing in for the senior guys. Hopefully, pull this one off. Lisa B, who you got? Sharks or Western Problems?
Yeah, I'm gonna go VP. They just looked to me a little bit better in the last games in terms of cohesion than the Sharks, but yeah, it's a toss-up.
Yeah, John.
I think whoever loses will be close enough to get a losing bonus point. So, um, yeah, I think Liesel pointed out something there in that Western Problems are just gelling a bit better at this point. So I would say Western Province to edge it. Um, yeah, I don't know. The Sharks seem very discombobulated to me. Like the the moment for them to start gelling and start clicking doesn't feel as close as it feels for Western Province.
Exactly. We're basically using this. If you look at the stats, the Sharks use them in the 4 rounds before this in the Currie Cup. There's only 3 rounds left. We use the most players, so we've been rotating players in and out of the URC training squad. In fact, just this week, 3 players in particular were announced to be in the URC training squad who hadn't actually really been in the squad training squad. So they're not in the game this week, and that would be the scrum half Fourie, Tian Fourie, as well as who are the other two? I can't remember off the top of my head, but they were in the mix. It was Matt Romano and another guy. So people were wondering, oh, where are those guys? And then Plumtree said, no, we're rotating them in and out. So yeah, we'll see what happens. There's one game on Saturday because there's a Springbok game as well. So at least it's not 2 games at the same time, which is tough to watch. So that would be actually going to be quite a competitive game. Cheetahs versus Lions. So quickly, Jean, we got in the cat fight.
Lions.
Okay, Lisa B.
Lions too, but I don't know if I can watch it. There's so much World Cup rugby and Springbok rugby and Currie Cup. It's terrible.
Million eyes.
You'll just watch the replay or the extended highlights. Yeah, I think it's tough to call. Cheetahs at home, but Lions have a better team. I'll just go Cheetahs just because give Bloom some happiness. And then finally, the last game of the week, Bulls versus Griquas. think it's all depending on which team the Bulls put out. Griquas are playing a pretty, because they don't have a massive squad, so they're playing pretty consistent team. I'd like the underdog to win, but I probably think the Bulls are going to win. Okay, of course, we don't know the squads right now on Thursday night. We do know the squads for the first two games, so we're going to quickly browse through those. So, Lisa B, Bulls Griquas?
Where's Grizzlies Rugby Club? I see they're playing there. I'm gonna go Griquas. Honestly, I don't know if the Bulls can pull back, but what do I know?
Yeah. This is ad on the side here. John, quickly.
Reckless Hope, Bulls. Return to
Oh, yeah,
form.
it's your team. All right. If we briefly look at the two, because the games are Friday, we can see the teams. So, interesting. Ross Brody's in the mix. He's been playing consistently. Friend of the program, Sango Kamlasha is playing tomorrow, Friday. It's pretty much, John actually touched on this a few weeks ago that this tournament, because there are no bye weeks, it's 7 weeks in a row. It's 9 weeks in a row if you make the final. This is going to test the Pumas' depth. And as somebody who hasn't watched the Pumas play much in the SA Cup, I'm seeing some sort of names that I hadn't seen before. So maybe these guys will step up, maybe they don't, but we'll see how Jimmy Stonehouse sort of uses his quality. For all we know, players that we're not super familiar with, we're going to get to know because the Pumas are having no choice but to rotate the players. Borland, Lisa B, is this pretty much your best possible team? It doesn't seem like much rotation.
Yeah, look, we had some also the injury to Gift Lamini. He broke his leg, so that's why you see Thurlow Marsh there again, which I'm not mad about. The one person coming back is James Tedder. He would have played last week, but picked up a niggle just before the game, so I'm very happy to have him back because he is just awesome. Llewellyn Claassen, yeah, this is pretty much what we can play at this stage. We don't have the depth that other teams have, but yeah.
No, you don't have the depth yet. Soon you'll be in Super Rugby. Johan is working on it. So yeah, guys that I would pick out would be the inside center, Lunathi Hele. Someone actually, I was at a club rugby game the other day, and somebody was talking to me about him. So he's got quite an impact. I think, yeah, he was also a CPUT standout player in the Varsity Shield. Um, who else? Schroeder's back. That's good. James Tedder put in a solid shift. Guys who you might be familiar with would be Sipu Sangweni. He used to play for the Lions. Yuri van Vuren, his name is familiar. I've shouted at Dejan van der Westhuizen before, former Southern Kings player. Yeah, good luck to the Amir Hendricks is doing some impact off the bench at lock. Recently returned from Georgia. We look quickly at the Sharks team. So the Sharks team, I'm obviously the Sharks supporters. I have a little more insight into this. They continue to sort of rotate in youth and experience. So they haven't gone full youth. It's very much 35% experience, or sorry, 40% experience, 60% youth, and to win, you really want a balance of the other way around. You want more, maybe 70% experience, 30% youth. But we've chosen not to be highly competitive in the Currie Cup to sort of balance the books, maybe. So, guys, you might want to look at is obviously be on the wing. So Butler, he got man of the match in the previous game, but he didn't play the more recent game in Griquas. Jaco Williams is back, but he's now at wing. For some reason, Jaco Williams is at wing and at. So this is Rugby 365. You guys made a mistake. You're all human. Jean Smith, son of Franco Smith, he's back. I forgot to mention Jean and Franco Smith played against one another for the first time in a competitive game. That's Franco Smith Jr. when the Sharks lost to Cheetahs 2 weeks ago. So that's kind of cool. On the VP side, anything to look at, Lisa B?
Oh, I haven't actually had time to. The one thing that I just forgot to say about Boerland is we don't have Donovan Don, which is unfortunate. VP, I haven't had a chance to look at
The squad, yeah.
the squad yet. Sorry.
Nothing stand out to you. Yeah. So Riley Norton, Springbok captain, he's packing down at blindside, which is interesting because he usually plays lock at youth level, which speaks to the fact that a guy can look massive at youth level, but at senior level you're slightly smaller, so they don't want to overly expose you. Um, Alex Grove, um, interestingly, born in South Africa, played under youth level for England and has recently signed for the Stormers. So the Stormers have brought South African back. So I'm a fan of Kyle Smith. He's quite good. Lots of potential there. Damien Marcus, it's been announced that Damien Marcus won't be going back to Japan. He's actually going to play. He's in the Stormers URC/EPCR team. So all the Stormers supporters on social media will really hype this kid up. Why? Because he was very good for the baby box. They must be over the moon. Gino Cupido, player I've noted before as showing a lot of promise. Nice to see Ezekiel Ngobeni start. Another player to watch. VP have a lot of high quality young scrum offs. We move on swiftly to, I just wanted to highlight quickly, the under 18 series has concluded. So there was actually 3 rounds of games, and the South African under 20 team won all of their games. And then the A team did quite well. Unfortunately, they did lose to Ireland. That's the first Ireland's first team. And so these games we've highlighted before. The first round of games was on a Friday in Durbanville. The next round of games was in Wellington, and then the last round of games was in Paarl. So this is the under 18 series. It happened. This is the 14th year it's happened. So I just want to highlight the fact that the main team, the under 18 team, South African team, won all their games. So they beat France, they defeated Ireland, and then they went on to defeat England. Unfortunately, the A team, aka the B team, the second team, didn't win all their games, but they did do quite well. They defeated Georgia, and then they unfortunately lost quite a bit to the French first team, but it's the French first team. Also, this tournament or aspects of this tournament are also named after the young French player who last year in this tournament unfortunately went to Cape Point Nature Reserve to Diaz Beach. If anybody's not familiar with Cape Point Nature Reserve, it's got multiple beaches, but one is called Diaz Beach, and there's a big sign there say, "Please do not swim." I've been there multiple times, and I've always seen people swimming there. I've not swam there, and unfortunately, the young man passed away. So there's a reason why that sign is there, guys. So please, if you're watching this, just like follow the rules in Cape Point. We move on swiftly to the announcement that the Springboks have added another game to their schedule. It's slightly out of the normal Test rugby schedule, so maybe we won't have access to certain players. Lisa B, how excited are you for this? And have you got your tickets?
I do not. But yeah, it's going to be it's the 10. You're speaking about Japan, right?
South Africa versus Japan at Wembley.
Yeah, right, got it. Yes, so it's great. 10 years since the Brighton miracle or the Brighton disaster, depending on which side you're on. I think it's great. I think Japan maybe didn't live up to those heights, but I do love them. I love their women's team as well. And I think it's a great anniversary, and I think it's going to be fun. And Saru will make more money.
Jean, are you going to buy the stadium tickets? I'll buy the flights. Or are we going to split this?
I'm gonna I'm gonna have to speak to my boss about getting next year, possibly next year and the year after's bonus a bit earlier. Um, yeah, look, obviously, I'm psyched for this. I don't think any game in rugby has generated as much meme value as the Brighton Miracle disaster. So hopefully we don't get memes again, or at least we get Bok positive memes. Because I swear I can still find photos of a Japanese guy holding a Springbok with chopsticks on my phone, saying, "I when I don't eat sushi, I eat Springbok." So yeah, hopefully no meme value this time. Obviously, this is called balancing the books, by the way. Getting the world champs to go back to one of, I don't want to say their low points. People always say it was a low point for the Springboks, and I was like, that was actually a very competitive game. Like it was so competitive, and you cannot help but love the Brave Blossoms for fronting up. I mean, if we always speak about fronting up to New Zealand and fronting up to France and to Ireland, it must have been twice as difficult for the Brave Blossoms to go out on that field and think we're going to show the Springboks who's boss. So I don't think of it as a low point for us. I think it was humbling for us to remind us that you can't just write teams off in today's in this day and age. But yeah, I'm excited for it. We haven't actually played Japan in a long, long time. We haven't played them in a long time, and I think it's about time we got to meet some of the new Brave Blossoms.
Great. Yeah, this is how you generate funds, not by milking the South Africans, by playing at a massive stadium. People are going to want to see the Springboks play. All right, we move right along quickly. Chamberlain only signed for the Bulls a year ago, is already leaving. He's signing a 1-year contract to join the now richer than everybody else, formerly Newcastle Falcons, now Red Bull Falcons. So good for him. I've been watching Peter Chamberlain since 2019. He came from the Sharks youth system. He was actually quite good in 2020 before the unfortunate cancellation of that season. Here's the reality of Peter Chamberlain. He's a very good rugby player. His strengths are passing and kicking out of hand. He's not super accurate kicking at poles, but he's improved somewhat since then. But his accuracy gets less the further away it is. He doesn't have a Francois Steyn type booming kick far and that type of thing, but he can sort of kick to a certain degree. Not everybody kicks far, that type of thing. So you bring Chamberlain in for creativity in the back line, those little grubbers, the little kick over the top, that type of thing, passing. He's solid on defense, and I wish him well. All right. I was actually quite sad when he left because I thought our fly off balance was a little off. We needed a bit more depth at fly off. All right. Storm has announced their squad. We do not have time to look through it, but the quick analysis I have is that in the back line, it's quite a good team. The only problem I have is that maybe they don't have the depth at front row forward because Frans Malherbe is out for the entire season. So they do have guys who can step up, but if injuries happen, the Stormers could be in quite a bit of a bind. But Dobson keeps saying, we've got new owners. We had a bunch of debt. We had about a bunch of our books weren't necessarily in the best of order. So we're trying to balance things out. Lisa B, anything stand out to you in terms of the Stormers already? They're the first URC team to ever announce their squad. Yeah. I'm sorry, to announce their squad for this season, not ever.
Yeah, I think they needed people to focus on something else other than the logo that is next to me.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I wonder if that had an impact on them bringing it out so early. I'm happy to see BJ Dix because there was issues with his contract, if I remember correctly. So I'm assuming that's been sorted out, and he's a good player. I absolutely love him. And then, yeah, it's a very big group, obviously, so I'm not going to go through everything, but really like to see the under 20s here. My question is just how much is Dobbo going to play them? Because this is the thing we do. We have all of this young talent and we just don't play them. If we don't play them, they're not going to reach their potential and they're going to get irritated and leave, especially because we don't have the funds that everybody else has. So yeah, like you said, so we have at least three that for the forwards that are out with injury for extended times. Dion Fourie, and Frans Malherbe, and then also Salman Murat. I'm not quite sure how long his injury will last, but just to say that obviously has an impact. They can be on the squad, but they might not play at all. or very little in the coming.
It's a bit concerning because they have very exciting players in that backline list of players, but do they have the forwards to actually front up? And as we know, the rugby analogy is the forwards decide who wins and the backs decide by how much. All right. That concludes our podcast for today. Yeah, if you got to the end of the video, thank you. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, click the notification bell. And if you did get to the end, comment down below. Kim Shelele. All right. I hope Robin Marau is not upset with me for saying that.
Also, if somebody has a better idea of the women's team than I do, please also drop it in and let us know.
Yeah. Lisa B, one final thought. I don't support the Stormers, but I have no problem with the new logo. What are your thoughts on the new logo?
Look, I mean, the whole of Cape Town had a collective breakdown, right? And I think the whole of the country, and there were so many memes and stuff going around. I don't hate it. I don't think it's the best thing in the world. I would have liked to see the the lightning bolt.
Yeah,
maybe a bit of red, because without the DHL logo, it's just like a white thing, I like that it kind of looks like the stadium. I love our stadium. It's beautiful. Was it worth the money? Like, I would have preferred another signing, or there's a lot other things that we can use the money on, honestly, but it's there. And it's not the worst. People were losing their minds. I don't think it's the worst thing. It could have been way worse.
Jean, do you have an opinion on this?
Graphic design is my passion. Look, I think now that everyone's got the memes and stuff out of their system, underwhelming, maybe. I can't really comment. We're called the Bulls, but we're sporting a daisy. So whatever that means. I think it's everyone's got the memes out of their system. For me, the most exciting thing about the Stormers this season is actually Kobus Reinach. I'm so happy to have him to have him back. I think the maturity he's going to bring into the back line is going to be the biggest gain for the team. At times, the Stormers have felt like almost like the Springboks felt on Saturday, trying too hard just to create something when nothing's happening. And I think having a nine who's just sort of spent countless hours in France box kicking and running into solid walls just to say no, 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 not yet. Okay, now you can try something would be massive. Because that's something I think we need to realize is nines have a lot more control over the game than they did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So yeah, that's the most exciting thing for me, coming from the Flower Boys up north.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
also, sorry, comments, people who hate this logo, tell us why. What exactly is wrong with it?
Exactly. Good point. On that note, from myself, Lisa B and Jean, until next week, in Rassie, we trust.
Thank you for listening to A Bit of an Animal. Please like, rate and subscribe wherever you see us, and join us again next week for more of the same. Until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.